So Tulsi Gabbard proposed some new anti-war legislation. Check this out.
The situation with Iran. This president has designated, for the first time in history, the military of another country as a terrorist organization. How dangerous that is. What a dangerous precedent that sets. Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, literally said, when asked, so you're saying that the head of Iran's military should be treated the same as ISIS? He said yes. That is a direct abuse of constitutional power, a constitutional power that lies within Congress to make the decision to declare war or not. So I've introduced legislation to deal with some of these kinds of abuses called the No More Presidential Wars Act. And this legislation would make it an impeachable offense for any president to bypass Congress and to unilaterally go and start waging a war in another country. And I'll close with this because I want there to be no doubt. Someone said, okay, that's great. You introduced that legislation as a member of Congress. What are you going to do when you're president? Sign it. Thank you.
So just to be clear, this legislation that she's proposing is basically like saying the president has to follow the Constitution. That's what that is. Because under our Constitution, only Congress can declare war. That's the way it works. Now, they've interpreted a zillion loopholes in that, and they're all bullshit, and every court should slap them down. But the idea is that, well, if we only stay there for a certain amount of time, well, then that's okay under the War Powers Act. And it's utter nonsense. And we're using the authorization for use of military force from the Bush era to justify today bombing all these different countries. I mean, we're using it to justify backing a genocide in Yemen when Saudi Arabia is arming on the ground jihadists. So Saudi Arabia is arming jihadists on the ground, and we're using an authorization for use of military force to basically ally with jihadists when they were the people we were supposed to fight after 9/11. Think about how crazy that is. We're going after the Houthis who did not attack us on 9/11. So it's all so insane. So Tulsi Gabbard, again, I love her. Every now and then she proposes these just like total common sense pieces of legislation, but unfortunately in Washington, D.C., they're not common sense to those people. Like, for example, she proposed the Stop Arming Terrorists Act. And literally, like, it sounds like what it is. Like, you cannot fund jihadists in Syria, you cannot fund jihadists in Yemen, like, no money, no weapons going to jihadists. You would think that's a duh, but no, of course not, because, hey, for geopolitical reasons, and for empire reasons, and for control reasons, and power reasons, and natural resources reasons, and sometimes you got, hey, you got to align with some bad people, you know what I'm saying? It's really incredible. So, this is a great piece of legislation, so of course my guess is it will go absolutely nowhere. But there are some people out there who are fighting the good fight on foreign policy. You got Tulsi Gabbard, you got Ro Khanna, you got Ilhan Omar, you got Bernie Sanders, even Rand Paul in the Senate. Oftentimes will hit you with some good stuff on foreign policy. So what we need is, in Congress and in the Senate, a libertarian Republican progressive Democrat alliance, where we work together on foreign policy, we work together on criminal justice reform, because that's the only way you're really going to get this stuff done. And, we need the entire party should be using Ro Khanna and Ilhan Omar and Tulsi Gabbard's talking points to fight back against Trump's escalation to war with Iran. The entire party should be doing that, and of course, they're not. They're doing milquetoast, half-measure bullshit, things like what Nancy Pelosi said. You need to follow the process. That's not enough, man. You have to just flat out be against the intervention. And Tulsi Gabbard is, and Ro Khanna is, and Bernie Sanders is, and they're the good ones. But too many in the party are not. But I love this piece of legislation, and I hope it passes, but I won't hold my breath.